My name is Karin Hehenberger. I'm the CEO and founder of Lyfebulb. We are a patient empowerment platform where we work with both patient communities and industry. We listen to patients for their insights and their solutions and try to really improve the quality of life for those living with chronic disease. I'm very happy to be co-hosting this Fireside Chat with Arena, a pharmaceutical company focused on GI diseases. And as a partnership, we are incredibly committed to bringing better products to patients worldwide. So welcome to our Fireside Chat members here, Danny Bernstein and Jon Margalit. You are not only wonderful participants in this, but you're good friends, and we have interacted a lot in the past. So I'm going to leave it to you to introduce yourselves. So please, let's start with Danny. And please give both your background as a patient as well as how you became interested in entrepreneurship and how those are connected.
Great to be here. Thank you for having me. And I think those two things somehow are tied together. I don't know exactly how, but they both happened in my early teens. It was discovered that I had the pain in my stomach was caused by IBD Crohn's, and so that was the beginning of my life as a patient, dealing with that for most of my life. I've tried to kind of make it manageable as much as possible, mostly through diet, but a couple of times through surgery. And I'll talk about more about that later. But essentially, I've been living a very rich, wonderful life, and I haven't let it get in the way of living. And I'd say on the side of the entrepreneurship, I've always kind of been involved in projects, but I did a healthcare project in 2008. I started a company focused on adherence, and then again in 2015, I started metaMe Health, and that was focused particularly on Crohn's and IBD, but it shifted to IBS, which 40 to 50% of IBD patients have and suffer from the symptoms of IBS. So that's the space, and that's a bit of my history there. So, Jon?
Thank you, Danny.
Yeah, hi, my name's Jon Margalit. I'm the founder and CEO of Complete Start. And my journey is one of those serendipitous journeys where I stumbled across something that sort of changed my life for what I thought would just be a little bit better to making it a lot better. I was, before I was diagnosed with Crohn's colitis, I was the kind of person that was super active, always out at social events all the time, always in the gym, just very active and out in society, part of the community, doing all kinds of events. And then when I got diagnosed and I started to have a bunch of symptoms and things went sideways, at that moment in time, I turned into somebody that was the polar opposite of the person that was always going out. I just wanted to be home and near the comfort of the bathroom and all these different things. And then I started to adapt and learn to deal with it. And I realized I had trouble eating salad and any sort of roughage. And so as I was sort of adapting to this new lifestyle and trying to heal myself, I was figuring out new and innovative ways to consume the type of products that I wanted. And then especially on the go, for people that were busy. So I ended up figuring out a way to freeze dry the vegetables, grind them into a powder, and then make them into a product that you can add water or milk to and make a smoothie out of. So it's this organic, vegan breakfast shake product that people with this condition can really thrive on. And it's also a convenient solution. And when I figured it out for myself, I realized that there were so many other people in the community that could use it too. And that led to it becoming a product and then into a real business.
That's so fantastic. Thank you both for sharing. And it's truly patient entrepreneurship, which, at Lyfebulb, we define as someone who's living with a chronic disease or close to someone with a chronic disease who identifies a need because of their own journey with the disease, and then does research and trying to understand that this is not a need for one person, but for several, and comes up with a solution that will solve that problem and creates a business to address a larger market. So patient entrepreneurship, for both of you being patient entrepreneurs, how does the fact that you are living with a chronic disease affect your role as the CEO founder of your business, if at all? Maybe Jon, if you can start.
Sure. Well, for me, it's a lot easier because I've been in remission for years now. And I think it's kind of like anything in life. You have to focus on the things that you can control, because there are so many things that we cannot control. And so for me, having the stress and the lifestyle of an entrepreneur and what that can do to your body and lead to inflammation and to trouble for us, I combat that with the two things I can control most: what I put in my body, what I eat, and how much I move my body, which is exercise. And those are the two things that I have full control over, that I dedicate a daily habit to make sure that I'm committed and I have the most control over the outcome. And that's led to great success. Danny, I don't know about you, but that's kind of how it works for me because I'm in remission. I know you've had surgery and it's a little bit different for you.
I've had surgery twice, resections on my small intestines. One was immediately after college. The next one was 7 years later. I was supposed to have a third one 7 years after that because they did a barium scan and they said, your intestines are a mess. You need this. And I just felt like, how am I going to live if I have no intestines left, if I have no small intestines left? And I felt like an animal trapped in a corner as I was talking to the doctor. And I said, there's got to be something else. And he said, if you want to try something extreme, like changing your diet to, proteins and give up roughage, you can, give that a try, but you'll be back. You'll need the surgery. Well, that was 21 years ago. So 1999, I was living in LA, and that was the end of Caesar salads for me and the end of a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables. So funny enough, I actually happened to get my box today of Complete Start, and I'm drinking a cup right now, and I'm thrilled about it because it's exactly what I have been doing in my life. I've been doing all protein, and I do blended peanut butter, bananas, which is a flavor I ordered, and it's perfect. It's now, it's really great, Jon. But honestly, in 21 years, I've somehow, I know that I haven't stopped the condition, the disease in any way, shape, or form. It's doing its own thing. What I've done is I've avoided exacerbating and causing pain and flare-ups by being good about my diet. Protein, I can eat a steak the size of Texas because it digests my stomach. And I don't feel anything after that. It's a natural progression from there. If I have a tomato or a piece of lettuce, I could wind up in the hospital. So, so I know my Crohn's is not being really managed, but I'm just managing the symptoms of it.
I want to expound on that a little bit and get into detail of, in the sense that everyone in prior discussions that we've had, everyone agrees on one thing in terms of the science that we know of so far behind IBD and IBS. And we know that everyone is completely unique, much like a fingerprint. We all agree that everyone's got unique DNA and that what works for one person might not work for the next person. So it's a little bit of trial and error. Specifically for me, if people are wondering when I say I control what I put in my body, I'm specifically talking that I follow a low FODMAP diet. And if you don't know what that is, it's really easy. You can just Google it and you can find a ton of information. You can find recipes and find out what it's all about. But it's sticking to a diet that simply lets you figure out what's causing these triggers and these flare-ups and simply eliminate those foods one at a time so you can get to a regimen and a lifestyle that you know is going to work for you and that's not going to cause you any pain or any sort of discomfort. From there, it's so much easier to manage the rest of your life. So when I say controlling that, that's what I do. And for exercise, I do high intensity interval training so I can in 20 or 30 minutes sometimes really, really get a great sweat and kick up those endorphins and stimulate some of the serotonin to the brain and things like that that can help us naturally heal, that we have some control over. So that's what I do. That's my practice.
So I'd like to second what you were saying, John, about each one of us. When I talk about what I'm doing, I'm not promoting it for anybody else. It really is, I'm a patient of one. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a physician. And so, I kind of find my pathway by, by a combination of knowing I need nutrients and trying to find those nutrients. And I realize that exercise makes a big difference. And so, that kind of puts me in a happy place. The low FODMAP diet's very good for many people, but it requires rigor. What John's talking about is he's got the personal fortitude to stick to a diet and to exercise regularly. And so, people need to find what works for them to help keep them on, on a healthy path. But we're all different. And especially when it comes to IBD, I've heard they're described as being, 80, 90 different types of IBD, taking place in different parts of the digestive system. So, again, we're different in that way as well.
Yeah, and I think that you make a great point in the sense that it takes vigilance and rigor to really, really develop the lifestyle and the habits where you do it regularly every day. Because if you don't, it's tough to achieve the results. And that's exactly why this whole journey sort of came full circle, in the sense that I figured out if I couldn't have time to prep the food all the time, but I had a way to have it in powder form and I could drink it fast, then I could always have it available and it could become this daily thing, to where even if I didn't have time, I knew that I could achieve the results. So it's these little hacks that you sort of just have to create for yourself along the way and really take note. But I think you nailed it. It's the vigilance. It's the doing it every day and making it a real practice. That's really the results. It's like anything in life. Go ahead, Karin. I know you're.
No, I wanted to get back to the personalized and the rigor. And it seems to me that both of you are keeping close records of how you behave and how you eat and how you exercise. Is keeping a journal or some sort of, way of tracking what you're doing, was that part of your entry into this way of living? Or, how did you get into the routine? I know for someone who is, I'm 31 years with type 1 diabetes, and keeping a journal is really critical for a person with diabetes. And I'm just wondering, how is this in the IBD community?
Yeah, it's also critical. I think that keeping a journal is critical, and being prepared is critical. So knowing where to shop, what to buy, and having it ready at all times for snacks when you're, when no one's perfect. So even when you journal, at least for me, I tend to get off from it. Some days I do it, some days I don't. No one's perfect. So the journal for me has been a nice tactic and a helpful tool, but it's just like one piece of the puzzle. But I definitely think that for something like changing up your entire diet, it's definitely important to track, and so you can look back. What for me, the most important part is you can see progress. That's what I love about the journal.
So you have a journal that actually will measure something, a metric that is relating to your quality of life. In IBD, what is that? Bowel movements? Is that fatigue? Is it temperature? What do you measure?
It's all the above. I think the three things that you mentioned are really key. I think it's energy, overall energy, and how much you need to accomplish in a day. So for some people, it's going to be different, but I think that fatigue is probably the number one overall, because if you have lack of bowel movements, or your bowel movements aren't, for lack of a better way to put it, good or smooth, then you will tend to be more fatigued anyway. It's all sort of connected. So I think you nailed it with those three things.
So we've talked a lot about diet and routines, and that requires a strong mind, I guess, and a strong sense of well-being and comfort. So Danny, we haven't heard so much about your business, metaMe. How does that make your mind more receptive to change? And maybe you can elaborate a little bit about what it is.
Of course. I was going to mention on the tracking part. I come from a different choice than you and John, from the standpoint that I don't do that much tracking. Even though my last company was for tracking people's medications, and then eventually tracking an IBD. And we set up devices attached to an app and did a lot of tracking. And what it did was it raised awareness for people. And the kind of comments that were so intriguing were, I never realized that when I do this, I have this effect. I have this symptom, a flare-up or a cause or exhaustion, and we tracked energy levels, we tracked pain, we tracked diet, we tracked medications. We also tied to a Fitbit back then. This is 2011. And I think the epiphanies that came from tracking was the value of the tracking, right? So tracking with purpose is significant. It's a big deal. So you want to know why you're tracking. I, on the other hand, tend to, just like John said, I actually carry, either beef jerky or like some, particular types of things in my backpack. So I'm always prepared. I always know where the bathrooms are when I go out. When I get to a theater or an auditorium, I'll go make a quick run and just make sure I know where they are so I can get to them if I need it. So it's a non-issue. I just reduce my stress level by kind of being planful. So when I started this company, I really did start off in the tracking business for my last company, but instead I wound up discovering through the folks at Northwestern, I learned about through my GI doctor, Stephen Hanauer.
Amazing guy.
Amazing.
Amazing guy. I know him as well. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. He's amazing. Right. Yeah. He's a terrific man. And I've been with him since I was 13 years old. He came out of medical school. He was working at the University of Chicago, and I've been with him ever since. And he's just terrific. So he says to me, he goes, have you thought about IBS? And I said, except for the fact that I live with it, no, I haven't really thought about it as a business area or a concept, or I know nothing about it, because I know there's not much, many treatments for it. He said, come by. I want to introduce you to some people. I want you to see what we're doing here. And from that conversation, metaMe was really born. And that was the start of, learning about how they treat patients at Northwestern. They have therapists in the GI department that treat patients for mind-gut interactions. And so, I've been working on this now for the last 5 years. We raised money last year. We're going through a clinical study to develop software, the software that's being tested. And our last patient, literally yesterday, we're now through our 380 patients. And we're going to be submitting the results to the FDA to get into market. With what purpose? A doctor can diagnose you with IBS, and if they deem it appropriate, they will prescribe our software for patients with IBS. And it's a 3-month program. You download the app. You need a prescription for it, or you will when it's available. And the results we've seen have been terrific.
And what does the app do?
The app basically helps realign and regulate the dysregulated. What happens is that our brain overreacts to signals from the gut. And the signals from the gut are caused by different types of foods. For instance, perhaps it's things that you shouldn't be eating. There are FODMAPs that you shouldn't eat. Perhaps there's stressful situations. But our gut has more neurons than any other part of our body, including the spine. And so the signals from your gut to your brain cause your brain to react. And instead of reacting normally, it overreacts. And therefore, it turns around and creates these symptoms such as abdominal pain, bloating, constipation, diarrhea. And 10 million Americans suffer from this condition. So it's significant. So
Danny, if I were to, for example, tomatoes are not not easily digestible for most people, even people who have no issues. If I have a tomato and it's not very ripe, would I then use your app after eating it or before eating it? How would it work in practice?
The program's a 3-month program. And what you're doing is basically modifying how your brain reacts to the signals from your gut. You do the program over a 3-month period. There's 7 treatment sessions, and then you're done.
So you're reprogramming. That's what I'm getting at.
You essentially are reprogramming, and so there are studies. There are 20 randomized controlled trials that came before us.
Yep.
They all use therapists, live therapists, 1-to-1. We took that and figured out that we could do it in software, and basically there's a therapist who's there's a recording of a therapist working with you. But
very cool.
3 of those studies showed long-term durability, meaning that the results that someone got sustained at a year, at 2 years, and one study showed at 5 years, 57% of the people had maintained that same level of relief that they achieved from the 3 months of treatment. So it works on anywhere between 50 and 70% of people who go through these programs, and it reduces symptoms by 50%. And this is, non-drug, no side effects, nominal side effects. And so, when I realized all of this and I looked at the drugs on the market and the fact that the patients and the physicians are not happy with these drugs, mostly, they're just not getting a lot of satisfaction. They work specifically on the symptoms, and typically the ones that work on your diarrhea give you constipation. The ones that work on your constipation give you diarrhea. So, this is something I pursued. And so we've kind of followed the path of, we licensed the protocol that was developed out of North Carolina in 1995. And so we've got a worldwide license for that. And that's what we're doing. We're developing that as an actual digital therapeutic is what it's called.
So this is great. This is very well explained. I totally get it. So thank you. A question for you as patient entrepreneurs. When you started your product, and we heard it very well from both Jon and Danny, why you started your company, and it was addressing a need that you had encountered. As you're developing the product and you're the N of 1, if you get input from other patients, how do you kind of take that into account if it differs from your own experience?
Danny, do you have anything off the top of your head?
Yeah, I would say that the kinds of what we did was we licensed I would talk about this in 2 ways. One is my personal life and one is the business. In the business side, we licensed a protocol that was standardized specifically so that any therapist could deliver it to any patient and get the same results. And that's what was proven through these clinical trials. Well, that's what made it possible for me to turn into a digital therapeutic. So as far as that goes, that's standardized. Yep. That's been proven, and that's what we're trying to now prove again in a double-blind study that's comparable to any drug study, and that's the work we're doing. Myself, I'm amazed when I go to lunch with people who have Crohn's, and I see them eating a salad. I have to remember, like you said, I'm an N of 1 on one hand, and on the other hand, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, how is that possible? And guess what? It turns out in a lot of cases, it's not possible. They tell me about how horribly they're doing. They tell me about surgeries. And so it reinforces for me the idea that, in some ways I'm on the right track, but I always hear tips and tricks, like to meet Jon and learn about Complete Start fits into my life. So that's going to be a perfect, I'm going to carry these packs in my backpack. And, in addition to some beef jerky, I'll be set for the day. And, and that's terrific. So, but I listen to anybody and everybody, but I'm very, I filter everything.
Yeah. I totally get you, by the way. When I see a person with type 1 diabetes who's like eating a whole plate of pasta, it always confuses me a little bit. And I think, wow, there's a lot of insulin that you need to dose for that plate of pasta. It has to be worth it, I guess. So I understand, but you can't judge anyone for their behavior. It's just another data point in how people deal with their disease.
Yeah, to be honest, when we first started, we're such a small business. I'm making some of this stuff in my kitchen, and then we finally get to like a real facility where we're making the products. But in the beginning, you just kind of cross your fingers and you just kind of go like this, and then all of a sudden, you figure out some things, and you hope that everyone has feels the same way from the products that you do, and you start to do focus groups, and you start to really make it more professional. And then from there, you start to see people leaving positive reviews that aren't your mom or your sister or, somebody that and you're like, oh my God, people actually like this. This is working. But you don't really know, it's one of these things where you think it's good because it's working for you and your peers in your small community. But when you push it out, you just cross your fingers and hope that it's well received. And luckily enough for us, it was. And then to continue the innovation and the product development, I'm working closely with Monash University, which is the creators of the low FODMAP diet, and really the only certified, regulatory board for that can really determine whether or not something is or not a low FODMAP. There are some other copycats on the market, but Monash is the one that I think is the authoritative figure, and they're helping us now develop new products that are certified low FODMAP, and that to me gives me a lot more validation than crossing my fingers like I did 5 years ago or whenever we first started, because I just didn't have the resources to pay for these types of certifications and to align ourselves with these types of partners. We were just too small.
Jon, so you started because of IBD, but that worked for you. Then you started to expand, and it sounds like you're into the IBS world now in as well. I got to imagine this is going beyond that for athletes as well. Is that right?
At some point, yes, it would, but I think that we're pivoting a little bit towards content too. We see this gap in the market. What we hear regularly from our customers is that they want more low FODMAP recipes and solutions that they can make at home, because they're supplementing their diets with our product, but they want full meals, hot meals, and things like this. So we're starting to launch a cooking channel, and Monash will certify all of our recipes as well. And so, I think that there's a lot of need for the low FODMAP diet. When you go to Google Trends and you Google it, you can see an explosion in searches and things like this. So we're not going into the athlete space just yet because there's so much of a need here in this IBS and IBD space.
Perfect.
So that brings me to community. As a company, and I know you, Jon, you're very active on social media, and I think Danny, you are as a company perhaps as well. But how do you see the role of social media and community for your businesses?
Oh, it's critical, especially somewhere like on our YouTube channel. For us, that's probably the place where we can connect the most with our audience, because we can go into detail about certain questions they may have about if they're going to drink alcohol, which type of alcohol should they be drinking and how much? If they want to eat fast food, is there any type of menu that we recommend or things on the menu that they could get that might qualify to be low FODMAP and things like that? That's the type of content that we're pushing out on social and our platforms. And that seems to be the most helpful. This is what people want to know. This is how we can serve people really well.
Terrific. So, as far as our business goes, we were actually in 6 states with a version of our product in telehealth, where patients were seeing psychologists, and we kept expanding. And then we realized that there was a different pathway to the market, which was through the FDA, through healthcare, payers paying, doctors prescribing. This was the better way to do this. So we actually shut down that entire line of business and have committed and dedicated everything to this effort. That being said, we don't have a product in market today. So while we do have, we submit to competitions, and we've been lucky enough to win a number of things, and being included in Lyfebulb's top 10 entrepreneurs for IBD was terrific. At this point, I'm just planning the landscape for the names of our products, and reserving those so that when we get to market, we have that ready to go. But in the meantime, not a whole lot of consumer facing anything.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And by the way, both of you competed in and were among the top 10. So congratulations again. And of course, Jon won. So, wonderful. I want to talk a little bit about what is going on right now and what has been going on for the past few months, which is COVID, right? And for any entrepreneur, it's been either, a struggle or maybe an opportunity. So can we talk a little bit about how your businesses and also your journey with the disease? Have you learned anything that you can share with our listeners?
Yeah, I've been particularly vulnerable. Been vulnerable to this in the sense that, especially when in the height of the lockdown, when everything was closed and we couldn't really go anywhere at all. I think the depression set in, and I don't know. I don't speak about this very often openly, but I suffer from some clinical depression myself. That's, I think, associated with the IBD and some of the challenges that present themselves scientifically and within the body and the brain. But to that, being at home so much, not being able to socialize like I love to do, like I mentioned, I think it took a toll on me, not being able to go to the gym and do my regular exercise and things like that. Luckily enough, the saving grace is that our food is packed and it's freeze dried and then vacuum sealed. So, at a time where everybody was stocking up on things like toilet paper, these types of non-perishable foods were also a hot commodity, and our sales exploded online at the time. So that was great. But, from a mental wellness standpoint, I haven't been in a good place for a few months. It's been really tough, especially during that time. I guess it's been 6 months now. But that, I would say that's what threw me off. And then, having a business, and even though you get an uptick in orders, then you have to deal with all the fulfillment of it and all the headaches that come with customer service upticks and things like this. So it's been really tough. And whoever's been thrown out of their element and either has a business or doesn't, you're not alone. It's, I think that I hope that a lot of other people understand or can at least connect with this, because times have just changed and we have to adapt, but it's not easy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the sense of loneliness and the sense of being locked up is tremendous, and it's dangerous, right? And that's why social media has been somewhat a help for many, even though that can also be dangerous because you see other people living lives that may not be totally real. Danny, I know your business had some opportunities during the COVID, or still during the COVID crisis.
Yeah, oddly enough, and I hate the idea of that, but you gotta. There's a famous golfing line about playing the ball where it lies. I don't play much golf, so but I will say that we were the beginning in the midst of our clinical study, recruiting patients, looking to recruit 380 patients. And it would take 560, 570 to get down to our 380 number. And all of a sudden, here we were. And one of the key components of onboarding patients was they went to go see their physician for a single visit to get cleared for the study. Well, that was, obviously turned into a bit of a disaster, but that only lasted so long because we took it, we played the ball where it lied. And we figured out that we could do telemedicine, and make that work. So we essentially wound up, instead of doing 15 different clinical locations to recruit patients and only being able to recruit from a 10, 15 mile radius around the office, instead, all of a sudden we were able to recruit from the entire state because that office could support telemedicine for the entire state. So, while 70% of all studies got shut down because of COVID, we, on the other hand, while we had a dip, which was problematic and slowed us down for a bit, we came out of it, I think exceptionally well. because we adjusted to where we were and what was possible. I'd also like to say that on a personal note, Jon, I think, this has been upsetting for all of us. It's kind of earth-shattering, and the idea that it's affecting every single person on planet Earth, is just, it's shattering. It's just really something. I've relied on routines. My wife is here with me, our dog. We take him for walks several times a day just to get outside. We do Zoom dinners, we do Zoom drinks, and this summer we spent time outside. So I think if you're in a place where you could be outdoors and enjoying nature and the sun, then you do that. If you're in the city, it's a little bit more challenging, but I think it's the human connection. And while, this is not nearly as kind of tactile as being in person with you guys both, it's a pretty good substitute. I haven't really gotten to spend time with either of you in years. So, this is really, really great to see you and hear how you're doing. But it's a challenging time. And, I think my mindset has been one of sustainability, of what do I have to do? Because we don't know when this thing ends. People talk about it and in different ways. And I try not to buy into any of it. I just know that it's clearly not ending today and probably not tomorrow. So it's going to be some time. And in the meantime, stay healthy, and do those things that are required to be healthy and to be happy. That's how I've been approaching it, but it's challenging, no doubt.
Yeah, we deal with the supply chain too. So there's a whole ecosystem. So when the products, when more SKUs came out and the uptick in orders came up, then the fulfillment center said that their people weren't there because of COVID, that they didn't have any workers. So customers got upset because orders weren't coming. So this is like the chaos of doing business in this time, is that it's not just you or your team. You have all these ancillary partners that need to fire also. And if they're off, anywhere in the supply chain breaks down, you can't deliver the final product.
Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah. No, this has really put us all into a situation where we have never been before, right? And it affects everyone. I think you said that very well, Danny. It affects everyone, and it's how we put some structure. And I think individuals who have, perhaps people with chronic disease of some sort, have a little bit an advantage in the sense that we're used to, first of all, accommodating and putting some sort of structure and routines in our lives because we've had to. So with this ongoing epidemic, everyone has to add more structure and routine, to their lives, and that's something that we may already be doing. Doesn't mean that the social isolation is it's a physical isolation, not as much social, because we are able to connect per Zoom. But this not being close to people, not seeing them in person is affecting us. And I think, Danny, you did talk about the mind gut. So this has to affect a number of individuals also in their symptoms. And that's where your products, your product that is here right now, Jon, and your product that will be here soon, Danny, will help so many people. And that's exactly why we're doing what we're doing as Lyfebulb and Arena, right? We are trying to bring better products to individuals who are struggling with these kind of chronic diseases. Any final words from Jon, Danny, to our audience? Keep in mind a lot of patients and care partners who are, interested in in improving their quality of life, living with IBD and perhaps also IBS. What do you recommend?
Yeah, just one final thing. The one thing I left out is there's one more thing you can control, and that's your attitude and your effort. And I know that might sound like a small thing, but it can go a really long way. So in order to create those habits and stick to them, just keep that strong mind, stay healthy mentally, and then everything should fall in line. But that's the attitude and the effort are really the key, because what to do is out there. Figuring out what works for you and what doesn't just takes effort, but the tools are there, the knowledge and the information is there. Now, who really wants it and who doesn't. I think that's what will separate those that can have more progress in terms of healing.
Wonderful. Anything from you, Danny?
I agree with John. I think if you're open-minded and continually trying to understand yourself and what you're dealing with, in these periods, that's just trying to discern. I hear a lot of discussion about meditation as a way to kind of differentiate between what's real, what's really real, versus the noise of social media, of TV, of Facebook, of Twitter. All those are different degrees of affecting us in different ways. But shutting it all down and kind of being in touch with your own mind and body, and just sitting even for a few minutes a day, kind of grounds you in a way that is not something we're raised to do in this country, but it's become more popular, and I think that it helps with being in touch with that difference between what is real for you, in your being, versus the world around you and all the noise that's taking place. And it gives you a chance to calm down, to settle down, and to then start your day from there. And even if you walk out of meditation and walk into the other room to get onto Facebook or Twitter, God bless you. But spending a few minutes alone, trying not to think of your to-do list, is a gift that people can give themselves. And in these times, there's all sorts of things that we can do to take advantage of the unique situation that we're in. I'm learning how to cook a Japanese omelet right now. It's going to take me a couple of more tries before I get this, but it's different than the American omelet, but it's a lot of fun. I'm cooking kanji, so I keep learning about these different things, and they're distractions, but they're also dietary things that work for my diet. So they serve a double purpose. But so for me, it's those are some of my thoughts, Karin.
So what I like in hearing from both of you really is there's a lot of prevention in your vision. There's a lot of thinking about how to prevent things from going wrong, but also in resetting something where you are on a path that may not be the best one. So, prevention is key. Living a conscious, life where you are aware of what you're doing, and that has to do with, keeping a journal, knowing the events and the consequences, preventing some of the actions that can happen when you are conducting your life in a way that you actually after a while realize is probably not the right way. So that's important. And then the resetting, which we've talked about through your app or other ways, and just trying to reset your mind. You can do that also maybe by cooking, right? You are distracting your thought process that may be going into a stressful onto a stressful path or a depressive path. And then I think when you are your complete start, Jon, is actually a way to also feel safe, right? Because when you are on the go or you are locked down, you have a safe way of handling your daily routines. And that actually does also calm your mind. So wonderfully put, wonderful conversation. Thank you so much, both of you. And we look forward to continued conversation. And thank you to the audience for listening to us today. So
Thanks
bye.
for having us.
Thank you.
Nice to see you both. Terrific. It was a great conversation. Thank you for your time,
Thank you.
everybody.
Bye.